Thinking about whiteness, thinking about church, thinking about the utility of white church and the utility of black church, and historically how that's been used, and just kind of into myself today, doing a little bit of self care, and just wanting to do this video vlog. I'm never consistent on video vlogs, but I wanted to just put out a video today on just self care for a black man in America. I don't know if we talk about that enough. I don't know if we know what that is. I have no idea, but I'm just putting this out. And there you go. So my thing that I'm, the biggest thing that I'm realizing is that I have to care for myself, and I find it very challenging to care for myself. Um, with trying to provide, with trying to make a living, with trying to pay my bills, and trying to be a creative. Um, I find it extremely difficult. And so just trying to counter the difficulty with self care um, is what I go through every day. Just saying, I do have access to some counseling that I'm going to be doing. Um, and as self-support, as respite care, trying to get good sleep, and just seeing this spot's not rubbed in good. Oh, that's coming off. Boom. We're gonna put that there. But anyway, it's kind of hard right now for me to articulate myself because my brain is going all over the place. But I think, as a black man in America, as a person of color, I like black. I like saying black man. I don't, but as a black man in America in 2019, um, just taking inventory, the biggest thing that stands out to me is just the separation of wealth, and just how that black people and as a community are like 150 years behind wealth wise as far as generational wealth. Our white counterparts had like 150 years a head start. And some people can probably do the numbers a lot better. I'm just roughly, when you look at my counterparts and I look, okay, their parents are in their 60s and 70s right now, and their parents had money passed down from them from their grandparents. It's about three generations, is what I see when I index, just my personal, when I talk to people, and I talk to a lot of people. I would say just surveying probably a good maybe 1,000 people personally, just in conversation. I ask people the same questions all the time. Oh, so when did you move where you moved? And one thing you see is, you see people did not get their income interrupted for a good 75 years. They were able, my counterparts' parents were able to have 30-year, 40-year careers and not have their income ever interrupted, thus their lifestyle. And they were able to buy a house at a certain age, and they were able to give that house to um, their children. And seeing that gap, and I think it took me, now that I'm 40, to um, really see it clearly, just to have the perspective, because I was so busy just trying to exist and trying to survive and trying to plug into whatever thing that I was trying to plug into. Um, but now, at almost 40 years old, I don't know if I said I was 40 earlier, a second ago, but now at almost 40, I'm looking at where I am as a man and to my counterparts, and I'm amazed, to my white counterparts, and I'm amazed at the difference. Um, Not jealous, just amazed at what took place before I even got here and how much has been taken. And then thinking historically how much has been taken from uh, from black people by white people, culture, just everything that is spicy, so to speak. I'm using the word spicy very loosely. Has been taken. Everything that has some style, and black people have tons of style and tons of fashion, and all of it comes from typically Africa. Um, our way of moving in style and everything we do, and the way we talk, everything. And so at almost 40 now, seeing what has been taken from black people, seeing what just mass incarceration and the role that has played, and that seeing the reality that um, that my three brothers, excuse me, me and my two brothers have never been incarcerated and don't have children out of wedlock. I know that's like a white construct. Like I don't that I don't. There's no shame around that. I'm not. I don't want to be but we don't. We just don't. Those facts. So is rare. And again, there's no shame around if you have children out of wedlock, because marriage is the biggest social, racial, and economical move that you can make. So marriage is loaded and truncated, and there's so many things there that tie into the patriarch, patriarchal system. Um, so, um, sorry, lost my train of thought. But those numbers with my brothers and I, and it makes us a rare breed, and all of it is funny because my upbringing, what I realize about my upbringing is it is a response to white supremacy and a response to create survival, to create a system of survival. And so deconstructing that now I've probably been deconstructing it for the last, I say 5 years, but I feel like I've really got some breakthroughs in the last 3 years or so. Thinking about, I think whiteness is a disease, and whiteness is a virus that has been given to white people, and that oppresses them in and suppresses their actual culture and their actual heritage, and deems them as just American and white. I would go so far to say that I think American, the cultural idea of America, is a disease as well, or a virus, or a sickness. Um, and I think that it oppresses people. Now, I think if people go to their heritage and their actual race and ethnicity, I think they can find some holistic wholeness. But the idea of whiteness, um, and the culture and what it means to be white, that is a disease that hurts and tears apart. It's very destructive, and I see that now. I knew it, but I just didn't have words for it because we weren't awake a few years ago. So there's a great awakening that has happened in the world amongst black people, white people. A lot of white people discovered in 2016, 2017 that they were actually white and that they had bought into whiteness. And certain people were really invested in it and kept it and embraced it, and other people rejected it. Those that rejected their whiteness and just went to humanity and did the work and read the books and are still doing the work, I consider them allies and I appreciate you. Those that haven't, I'm always leery, and I think that you're dangerous to me because you will react to certain situations that will cause harm to me directly, um, by just calling the police when you don't need to call the police, um, saying things that you have no idea the social pain that they cause. Just not being aware of your whiteness, just being clueless, not being aware that the privileges you've been given, and walking in that. So, um, thinking, and I was just thinking last night about whiteness being a disease and a virus, and um, excuse me, and the damage that causes, and the damage that it causes to white people. Now, that's not my concern because I'm not white, so I'm not there to solve that problem. Black people have enough problems on their own to solve. I have enough problems as a black man growing up in the unique way that I grew up to solve. So I don't need to solve anybody else's problems. I got to work through my own stuff. But it is a disease in a fashion this idea of whiteness and what that means. Um, because I think it suppresses your actual heritage and race. And it suppresses so much and lets this idea of superiority and white supremacy, which is just all made up, it's just made up because a good utility, it's useful. Whiteness and white capital supremacy, excuse me, sorry for checking the camera, is very useful for um, capitalism and power and money. For capitalism, power and money, that doesn't really make sense, but that's not. It could be more. There's more there. It's more. That's too simple. Um, but for power and to keep preserve certain things, and I'm saying this from the perspective of being a black man in America. But racism is very useful for capitalism, and they work hand in hand with it. And white men have benefited from it for uh, since the existence of this country. That's what it was founded on, was white supremacy. And the government is an institution it's the FUBU for white men. It's made by them, for their benefit, right? So that's what the government is in America today. And you have different people trying to, um, that represent people of color in government, but it's so bigger. It's so much bigger than that. It's been established so long, and it works so effectively. We look at mass incarceration, and just the separation of wealth. The distribution of wealth, and how the, you don't stand a chance against the American government. It is the biggest gangster institution, finely tuned. It works. It's sustainable. It's sustainable racism, right? It's sustainable, boy. It's sustainable oppression, right? It just feeds on itself and feeds itself by itself. Yeah, it's amazing. When you look at it in an objective way, when you look at it from a person of color, it's painful. It's um, it's very painful. Um, but what's crazy is my entire life the joy I've had of being black and being a black man. So in the midst of oppression and an oppressive system, and I grew up in a very racist community. Um, uh, I've always had joy being black. I've had, like, myself, my color of my skin, my culture, um, the music of black people, the song of black people, the voices of black people, the lips, the eyes, the nose, the teeth. See my gap there? Yeah. My hair, texture, my body, the way I am, big. I'm a big man. I love it. I've always loved that. Um, so that's kind of funny to me that has been my reality. I've never hated myself, um, or who I am. I've been hurt a lot by whiteness and white supremacy, and then blatant or passive. I've had blatant. I've had skinheads. Run-ins with skinheads many a times. Neo Nazis, where I grew up, they had the neo Nazis, and I think they had not neo Nazis, Nazi lowriders. That's what they had. Um, so there's a lot of different Aryan brother gangs, and in Southern California where I grew up. So this video, it's just an expression. It's just me riffing, unscripted, about in self care. Self care and just being black in 2019, and just what that means, and just what we see and what I see. Um, Many times I'm overwhelmed, so I'm working on having a support system that supports me physically, because black men go through so much physically that it takes a toll on us physically, and breaks us down, and wears us down. Um, and that's why you see the health of black men is so compromised for the most part. Um, Once they get older, you have a lot of young athletic black men because athletics is uh, cultivated by white culture and as a way to get out of a situation. Um, and so you have a lot of that, but you look at athletes in their later years and how well they do, and a lot of just broken bodies from professional sports and just bad health, you know. So um, so that's something that I think about a lot is just the health of black men. I've been on that for probably 9 years at least, thinking about the health of black men. Um, so I'm a black man, and that's what my focus is. Also thinking about the church and spirituality, I feel like spiritually I am spiritually blocked in this season in a fashion. Um, Now there's a spirituality that I can access uh, in 1 second, but I'm trying to sort through the white evangelical Christian oppressive form of religion or spirituality versus the more rooted, closer to my ancestry. Um, and I feel like I have a direct connection to my ancestors, but how to kind of shed all of the other stuff that gets in the way, the really sick, toxic doctrine. Um, that I'm That's a personal thing that I'm sorting through. But what I see historically is that the black church was a very crucial with social justice and very crucial with um, really being a support system to enslaved black African Americans or black African slaves that were in America. Um, when you look at, oh, you're gonna laugh. I'm blanking on it. I can't. Frederick Douglass. That's the name I was trying to pull up. I've studied him for years. How he used that when they would go to church, they would teach other black people how to read. So it was a real activist. The church had a utility, and what is funny is seeing that the church has utility amongst white people too today as evangelical Christians. I grew up in a very fundamental black Christian church. Um, or my section was black. But I'll explain that later in another video. But today, when there was a few years where I attended evangelical, Pentecostal, influenced churches that were predominantly white, and how that it's really like entertainment for white people. It's a, a, a daycare center, a community center, and business deals. Like white men connect, and then they connect in their small groups, and then if they like each other, they'll end up doing a business deal. They end up working together in some way. So it's like a social club. It's like this conservative social club um, for for men, and a lot of white men are lost that are in the evangelical. That whole system doesn't really work for them, and it's a lot of stuff there that they're trying to live up to their fathers, who the man he was or perceived to be, and it gets really, and that's a broad stroke, but I think if you look at it closely, you'll see what I'm talking about. But I don't have time to get into all that. I don't have the energy. So anyway, self care and the burden of being black is very heavy many times, pretty much all the time. But I still love being black. I love who I am. I love everything about me. Always have. So I think I'll end the video right there. Peace.